Hey Wizards, guess what? It is Kieran Ashhammer, and I'm back for another episode of the Dual School Fire and Storm walkthrough, guys. And we are here in Celestia, and we've got to collect some power crystals because we got to help repair this area. And apparently these Celestian remnants have some of them, so we're going to go ahead and just get straight into the action today. I hope everybody's being good. It's been a couple days since the last time I saw you, and I am enjoying my day. I hope you guys are enjoying your days as well. Hope you guys enjoy the video and hang out with me for a little while today. We're going to be working our way through the main quest storyline of the Fire School as we're trying to balance it out with a dual fire and storm type of focus. Very good. So, story so far, we are here helping out this lost, this expedition to Celestia, which is a world that saw a great cataclysm here in the spiral, and we're now digging up lost technologies, lost spellcraft, which is interesting, so there's a storyline to it. Pretty exciting, Now what we're doing is we're running around down here, and apparently the Marleybonian explorers, they've had a few problems. This particular one over here in the Storm Riven area, he's not very happy with wizards running around, thinks we're stirring up a whole bunch of stuff, so he's asking us to go ahead and fix a few things so that he feels like we might be useful around here. So we've already fixed his water pump, which is going to keep us dry, because I don't know if you guys noticed, we are underneath the ocean in this part of the world. Celestia has a few islands, but for the most part, all the really cool stuff that we're excavating is underneath the water. And it's not just the Celestians that we're dealing with, we're also dealing with this empire down here, this crab empire. We've already had a little bit of experience with them. We're going to find a little bit more here as the story continues. So yeah, we're just trying to help out this expedition, trying to help them find all their missing members, help to stabilize it so they can learn all sorts of new things about the Celestian Empire. And so it's a really, I think it's a really fun change from the world-ending plot that we had in part 1. And that's how things are going. Now, rules for the walkthrough. Hey, if you are new to the series, the rules for the walkthrough are pretty simple. We're doing main quest lines only. We're not doing side quests, so we're only leveling up with main quest line and quests that'll give us extra training points, because we need the training points to be able to train the other school of spells. And what we're doing is we're working up different strategies. I love getting the feedback from you in the comments. So if you have a strategy idea that I hadn't thought about, or that you're not seeing me employ that you think might be helpful, throw it in there. Now, again, our main focus is dual school. We are avoiding the big Uber gear, such as Waterworks or the Zeus gear and stuff. I mean, we'll go ahead and run through the dungeons and everything, and if we get something, we get something. But that is not the focus of that. What we're doing is we're looking at crafted gear primarily. The crafted gear that gives us dual stats, either, in the school that we're shooting for. And right now we're shooting for Fire and Storm as our dual school, trying to do a damage hybrid. Now, there's a few things that we've learned through this journey. There's a few things that we've learned through this journey as we're going through. For instance, if I was to do a dual school uber damage wizard, I would probably go Storm Fire instead of Fire Storm. Because when you start looking at the gear, the fire gear is not as good as the Storm gear. Yeah, the Storm gear, the Storm crafted gear that you get is actually have much better bonuses and boosts than the fire gear. So that kind of goes along with the theme that we've been talking about. Well, if you've ever watched any of my series, especially any of my Wizard101 walkthroughs, like my Myth walkthrough or this one, is that one of the few problems that I have with this game. Now, there's everybody has problems with the game, right? No game is going to be perfect for everyone, but, if I was to say a couple things that need to get fixed, and King's Isle has been fixing things here and there for quite a while now in the game, because when the game was originally thrown out there over 10 years ago, 13, 14 years ago? It's been a long time, okay? When the game was originally developed and put out there, they had a very distinct idea that people would concentrate on a school, pick up other spells from other schools, and combine them and create basically team up, because it was really meant to be a multiplayer game where you met other wizards, hung out, and explored and did the fun stuff together, right? And worked together. So you'd have your strengths and weaknesses of your different schools that would complement each other, and that was a big focus of the game, at the beginning. And what happened is metas started coming out, and people started playing it particular ways. YouTube very much so showed the weakness of the meta. So everybody just started trying to build their wizards one particular way, and then you always got those toxic people that say, "Well, man, if you don't do it exactly the way I do it, you don't know how to play, or you don't know what you're doing, or you're a noob, or there's always going to be those toxic people in any game, But anyways, so
outside to throw the lever that activates the generator.
And then as they started developing the game, they made what I would call a few mistakes. They made these Uber dungeons like Waterworks, which would give you such overpowered gear. And it is OP gear. Waterworks, definitely OP gear. The Zeus gear that they added on later on at level 30, definitely OP gear. They gave you such OP gear that the gear at the end of each world, which is what you're questing for, suddenly it's not that valuable, Okay, so those were what I see as some of the problems in the game, is that as they expanded the game, I don't think they necessarily took those things into account. They made that gear so good, it was really the default way to build your wizard. Okay, let's take down this Piscean Lancer. Piscean. And so that's kind of where I think the devs over the years kind of put themselves behind the 8 ball, because instead of developing the game from the original mission, they didn't really watch the balance that well. In fact, as they start adding new spells and the levels started going up, especially like when you start getting past level 100, I guess. This game it builds up pretty good. A lot of the spells were very unbalanced, and they started seeing this in certain setups when people would play PvP and such, and basically they had to go back to scratch one. And a few years ago, they did a huge spell audit balance, where they started really looking at the spells of the different schools and started thinking, oh, okay, we need to make some adjustments here because things aren't being played right. And then they started evening the schools out, so the spell catalogs that each school had started changing, and so people just started playing every school the same way. Blade, AoE, blade, AoE, blade, AoE. And so the nuances of playing wizard and coming up with different strategies for different strengths and weaknesses of different schools was kind of blown out. And again, I blame a little bit of YouTube. I blame a little bit of the devs kowtowing to it instead of sticking with the original idea of creating those distinct play styles like they had originally. And so some people would say, well, nobody liked Myth because Myth didn't have this, or nobody liked to play Life because Life was challenging here. Well, and I would disagree. Like, I remember playing in the early days, and you usually found wizards of all different ilks, and some of the things that they did do to prop up certain focuses of certain schools, like giving Myth the ability to do monstrology and be able to summon more than one monster. I think that kind of really evened out Myth a little bit, so that it was more valuable to do a Myth wizard and enjoy that. So I love the game. Let that not be said enough. I really enjoy the play style. I enjoy all the different ways that they have developed the game over the years. And to me, even though I'm kind of complaining where I think some of the missteps are right now, I think overall, the game design and the game setup and what they build here, I love. I've never not enjoyed playing this game, and I've been playing this game since I think I first started playing back in 2009. It came out in 2008, and so it's been a long time of me enjoying the heck out of this game. And so when I say these things, these are just my observations over the years and things that I think some missteps that devs made. Now, the biggest thing I think the devs need to do is this one thing that they've been talking about for a while, but let's talk to Leland first.
Surprise me, Wizard. I'm impressed with what I've seen so far. Perhaps I've been unfair. Fresh start, then. As you know, we're trying to sort out a way through the portal leading to the Lunarium, the astral school of the moon. The portal pieces were scattered throughout the area, and most were buried beneath the waves. If you'd like to be of further help, you could gather them up. I'm no wizard, and confess that I'm afraid to touch them.
We'll do that. So, what do the devs need to do next? Like, if I was the guy in charge, if I was saying, okay, this needs to be kind of the focus. This is where they should put their attention in the game as far as for building and things that they should do. I'll flat out tell you straight up. I think, if I was the devs, I would spend time and I would do that gear audit. Yep, I would do the gear audit. I would go through and I would. Here's the tough part: is I don't think I would adjust the Uber gear, And when we're talking the Uber gear, we're talking really about 4 main sets of gear. We're talking about. Ooh, there's a piece, right? Mm-hmm. When I talk about the Uber gear, I'm talking about the Zeus gear that you can get for your wizard. Okay, really any of the gear from those particular scenarios. I keep forgetting the name of the place. Okay, so any of those 3 sets of gear, and you get like the Zeus gear at level 30, and then like at level 60 or level 70, you can get the Poseidon gear, which is not so bad, and then like at level 90, 91, you can get the Hades gear, and all those 3 pieces of gear, all that gear is valuable depending on the way you look at it at those different stages of the game. But I'm also talking about the Waterworks gear and the Waterworks gear and what's that other piece of gear? Oh, guys, just so you guys know, back here there is a teacher behind one of these. Yeah, must be on the other side. Well, anyways, the Waterworks gear, the zigzag gear, which I think is pretty cool. I think the zigzag gets a little bit of a bum rap sometimes because it's kind of like the stepchild to the Waterworks gear. Here, let's go ahead and portal back to Leland. The other 2 pieces of gear, such as the Darkmoore gear and then the Dragoon gear, that's what I would call the Uber gear. That's gear so powerful that you are using it for, not just 10 levels or 15 levels. You are using it for, I kid you not, 50 levels before you need to change it.
That's not all of them. Judging from what you found, there are at least 2 missing pieces of the portal. Those Celestian remnants seem interested in them. Their leader is Alaric Moonsunder. He's in the ossuary. If Moonsunder is willing to speak with you, maybe he can tell you where the missing pieces are.
Okay, let's go talk to a ghost. So, now, here's my thing. I would not, not buff, but I would not nerf that gear. Okay? A lot of people.
I sense in you great power. You are not with the expedition or with Morganth's invaders.
Ooh, that's a name we haven't seen yet, Morganth. So we have some sort of invaders down here. Interesting.
The Celestian Wardens have long held the line against the Morgantine invaders. Even the sea could not quench our fire. When the Dark Queen of the Shadow Web came to Celestia to learn our magic, she was sent away by our wizards. She returned to take it, and our army met hers on the field of battle. We were undone by an unreliable ally, the Storm Titan. The Storm Titan pulled Celestia beneath the waves, ending the war and hiding Celestia from the spiral for once and all. Eons later, we are still locked in a war we cannot win. 2 warring planets orbiting an ever-burning sun. I sense that you wish to learn the secret of Celestian magic, and that you have been proven worthy. My counterpart among the Morgantine forces is Kerelak Nightspinner. Go and speak to him. He will tell you more.
Now, this is one of the interesting plot holes I think that's in the game, is the way he talks. It was like eons ago, like thousands of years ago, when Morganth invaded. But Morganthe has been around a long time. In fact, well, she's been around a long time, but we're going to find some more out about her, and it's going to seem like it maybe wasn't as long ago as Alaric makes it sound. I don't know. There's a few things about the storyline and the way they wrote it that you sit back and think, I would love to see a fully outlined story map to the game, because there's some possibilities I think they missed.
You are no Celestian. You must have spoken to Alaric Moonsunder if you sought to speak with me. Though we are enemies, we respect one another. If you seek the lost pieces of the portal stone, we can help one another. I do not know where they are, but I can find them. But I am unable to aid you without my Shadow Seeker medallion, a magic talisman that lets me find whatever I seek. It was cut from around my neck in the midst of battle by Alaric Moonsunder himself. I cannot find it now. An ironic fate. If you can find and return my Shadow Seeker medallion, I will use it to give you what you seek most.
Okay. Well, anyway, so, now, this is where missing the initial. There used to be like a seed quest to kind of start off Celestia, that you go through before you get out here. And I think we kind of miss the value of that seed quest, because it kind of helps set up a little bit of what we're dealing with right now. Kind of sets up who these Morgantine invaders are, and the fact that they're all running amok in the spiral, it seems like.
A piece of what might be the Shadow Seeker medallion. Maybe Alaric Moonsunder knows what happened to the rest.
Okay. So, yeah, it's pretty interesting as far as that goes, So, yeah, I would love to see what their timeline was, and whether, as they were writing the story and the stuff, they were adding in misunderstandings and ponderings from different people that remembered it differently as they were creating the myth of the spiral.
Kerelak's medallion. I remember in the savage dance of battle, striking with my blade and cutting it from his neck. He did not notice, but his men did. They scrambled for it as if it were gold, taking the pieces for themselves. I assumed they would return them to their master when the battle was done, but they are without honor. If you wish to recover Kerelak Nightspinner's Shadow Seeker medallion, you must claim the pieces from his men.
Okay, so it looks like we got to fight some Shadow Web mercenaries, which are the guys in orange. Okay, yes. And they're a little bit easier to get down here without getting the wrong thing. So let's go ahead and get them. Well, anyway, so going back to what I think the devs need to focus on, and they've got lots of focusing on, but they've been talking about this for a while, and it's called they did a spell audit a few years ago, and I think the spell audit did kind of balance things out a little bit. It did adjust things to a particular playstyle that I think took away from the original intention of the game. It kind of made everybody playing the same thing, blade, AoE, etc., etc. But at the same time, they really did started to change up and add a variety of PvP spells that I think would make PvP more interesting. I don't know. Depends on who you see out there in the comments, as far as, the opinion of the current PvP situation here at the Spiral. I'm not much of a PvP player, so I can't speak either way, whether it was better, worse, etc., etc. But I can tell you that just for the RPG element, the questing and questing with friends and everything, I think a gear audit is extremely necessary for them to do. And it's an opportunity for them to make role-playing, or should we say questing, way more interesting and way more valuable. I've said it multiple times. I love RPGs. I've been playing RPGs since like the first real RPG hit the United States on the Nintendo. And I'm going to say that was the first. I mean, there might have been other ones and other consoles, but I'm going to say the Nintendo was really the first one that kind of seemed like it was almost an open world RPG where you developed a character and leveled him up, and you got dropped different gear and you could customize it. Dragon something, I believe, on the Sega at the time, or was it the ColecoVision, had another one called Phantasy Star, and basically there were games that were like this. They are the predecessors to these. And part of the fun of doing the RPG was going in, completing quests, getting gear drops, seeing what was different than what you had. There wasn't this, oh, I've got to go fight this guy 25 times so I can get this one piece of gear, because you just didn't know. You know, whatever you got dropped, it was like, oh, cool, that's awesome. This is really neat. Oh, I wonder if I can find another one. Or oh, I wonder what's going to happen next as I move on. So basically the whole meta of the game was, you know, you find what you find as you go through the quest lines. You don't repeat quests over and over until you get drops that you want, or you follow what I'm saying? And I think that's kind of been lost in modern RPGs, because what happens is, and I somewhat call it the YouTube effect, because, you know, what happens is some players who really dig into certain things and discover certain things, what they do is they grind, and then they tell you, hey, this is the way to play. If you want the most powerful piece of gear, you got to go ahead and do this and do that, as opposed to stressing different styles of play and different methodologies. You know, they focus on one thing, and the devs kind of put this game in that hole by going that route in the development. And I think they lost a lot of opportunities in which they could have focused more on the specific gear of specific schools and created that. Well, I'm sorry, specific gear, specific worlds. I think finding powerful gear is good, but I don't think it should be relegated to, like, 1, 2, 3, 4 spots in the game. I think, you should be able to get an awesome gear set that's competitive with any other gear set, as you work through the world. I think what makes a RPG a lot of fun is, as you're going through a quest line, there's an opportunity to find cool gear that's going to power you up enough to be able to take down that final boss. Okay? And that's always been what I think is fun about doing quest lines and stuff in any type of RPG. Not going and camping a dungeon until you get the drops you want on something. And although I'm guilty of that because, I build wizards that way, you'll notice that my walkthrough with my myth wizard was very much like that. But that's why I'm doing the dual school here, is because I want to focus it a little bit differently. I want to focus on the gear you get in the dungeons, the gear that you can craft, and leveling up without worrying about side quests to OP yourself. And I think the game has been so very interesting following in this reign. And what has it shown me? It's shown me some of the weaknesses in the game design itself, such as not being able to get certain things, or should I say, the challenge of playing at on level, which makes the fighting and the questing more exciting. The fact that when you do grab things from drops, sometimes they're useful, sometimes they're not. That kind of leads me to the bazaar, and the bazaar, I think, is a great tool.
You have returned that which could not be found. You have returned the pieces of my medallion, but it is still broken. Can you place it upon that nearby pedestal? That will restore its energy flow and enable it to be of use to us.
Okay, and that kind of leads me to the bazaar, and I have a strong opinion about the bazaar.
You have restored my Shadow Seeker medallion, and with it, my power is restored. You think you seek the missing portal pieces, but you are wrong. If you came to this sunken place, it must be in search of your doom. Did you really think I would put aside centuries of hate to help you?
Let's take him down. Ooh, okay. I'm glad I stopped because he's a fire enemy. That means we should make sure that we are thinking smart on this, because this could make the fight challenging. So let's go ahead and let's prepare ourselves with a couple of boosts. Okay. I think we'll be okay. Okay, so let's talk about the bazaar. The bazaar came out about the same time than Celestia came out, from what I remember. The bazaar was released about that same time, and I understand the need for the bazaar, because in the game you couldn't sell your gear. You couldn't sell the extra gear that gets dropped to anybody but just regular merchants, and they gave you pennies on the dollar for it, which, when you think about it, early game, kind of frustrating when you're trying to save up enough gold, but later on in the game, as it's worth more, it kind of evens itself out. I think it's a meta that was, I only got one guy here. That's kind of nice. Okay. It kind of evens itself out just a little bit. So I think it would have been just fine. But the problem with the bazaar is that you do not have to earn gear. There is no surprise when you find gear and thinking it. If you want the best gear for your level, you go to the bazaar and you buy the best gear for your level. I mean, it's as easy as that. There really is nothing else to it. So that's definitely what I think is kind of a loss to the game, because why even look at the gear that gets dropped in other places when you can just flat out go buy the best gear that's out there right away. So now gear dropped is not that interesting anymore, and so half the point of questing, not just to finish storyline, but to see what else might fall into your lap, gear wise, you kind of lose that incentive, and it takes away from the game, takes away from the idea of RPGs anyways, because waiting to see what gets dropped as you're working through quest lines, I think that's part of the fun of a really well-designed RPG. So, going back to what I think devs could really do to improve the game. Oh my goodness, I might not survive this mess. Things that I think that devs could really do to improve the game. 1, complete a full gear audit. Yep, complete a full gear audit. Re-level, especially the best gear of each world, so that it's competitive with the Uber gear. Okay, it's competitive with the Uber gear. I would say even better than the Uber gear. Now, if they want to make it if they want to make it rare drops from certain bosses in certain parts of the game, I'm all for that. I think that's great. Where you'd have to grind for some of that gear, or if they made the crafted gear the primary gear, I'm even more for that. But they've got to adjust the stats. They've got to do a gear audit. They've got to level the playing field so that this gear is as good as Uber gear. So that you can get it, or it's worth questing. That way, the Uber quests are kind of like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and run this once or twice, and if I get something cool, great, but if I don't, that's okay, because I'm going to continue on with my main quest and find some awesome gear that way as well. Are you guys taking what I'm dishing right there? So what that does, that gives you an opportunity to explore and see what's dropped. Second thing I think they need to do is they need to just kill the gear side of the bazaar. Yeah, it's a waste of time. It takes away from the fun part of the game. I am so glad I put up that shield, because I'd be dead now if I hadn't put up that shield. Whoosh. Okay. Okay, as long as it doesn't attack me, I might win. Okay, so that's what I think. I think they need to do a full gear. They need to do a full gear audit. They need to adjust, at least at the very minimum, the crafted gear out of each world and make it more valuable, make it really worth going after as compared to everything else. And beyond that, what they need to do is they need to get the gear out of the bazaar. Sure, maybe select a few pieces of gear. Maybe leave a Thames in there. Maybe leave wands in there. But I mean, a majority of your gear, they just need to pull. Just needs to come out, because I think it would improve the game, make it more interesting.
You have given me what I sought most, my own destruction.
When Karalak Nightspinner falls, he drops a piece of the Celestian portal.
And that's just me. May not be a popular opinion, but I think those would be a couple things that would just make the game so much better, and it would make the questing side vastly superior. Now, would it do anything for the PvP? Couldn't tell you. Wouldn't be able to tell you if it would help the PvP side of things at all. But I think those would be some fantastic additions, and it would take us back to what makes my opinion is what makes an RPG fun to play and go through and quest. It gives you that progression. It gives you that visual progression. It makes the game fun.
You've got it. That can't You've got all but the last fragment of the portal stone. Don't be discouraged. It's more than any of us got. As you know, much of what we do is dig around in search of broken bits and fragments of things, usually far less important. You've earned a rapport with the Morgantine soldiers trapped in this place. It's quite remarkable how you did that. I've spoken with one of them, a fellow named Vasek Shadowspite. Don't let the name fool you. He's quite friendly. Go and speak to him in Storm Riven Hall. He might be of help finding that last portal piece.
And with that, guys, I think we are going to go ahead and call it. So thanks for hanging out with me and listening to my rant, guys. If you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. And any likes would be very much appreciated. Drop me a comment. Let me know. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Are my ideas totally off the rails, or do they have some merit? Have a great day, guys. This is Kimise for Kieran Ashhammer. Catch you later. Bye-bye.